Hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker, and today what we're going to be talking about is, are we in a golden era of bikes, and why I think it's a good thing. And a lot of people disagree with me, but you know, we're gonna talk about why I think we are in a golden era of bikes and why that's great. As we go along this lovely winding route that I took a detour to try kind of find somewhere to pull in to go home, to put on the cameras before I went home, but look at all these nice buildings. And this is what I came across, just kind of prettiness, and I forgot to do up my helmet strap, so I'll have to stop again. So where has this topic come from? Where has this conversation piece started in my brain? Well, it's been something I've been meaning to kind of talk about for a long time in regards to, you know, the first ride reviews I do. And you know, I often get comments like, oh, you love this bike and you love that bike and you love all bikes, and I do. And the problem with it is if you ride, and oftentimes, not all of them, but oftentimes the bikes I ride, look at the size of those transformers, dear God, from the Middle Ages. Anyway, oftentimes you ride newer bikes, and even like the older bikes I ride are like pretty new, you know. I'm talking like, even a 1999 SV650 is a pretty new bike to me. So, you know, even when I rode that, I was like, it's not too old. And that's kind of the trouble, is when I do these reviews, it is almost impossible to say a negative word about them, because all manufacturers these days, they know what they're doing, you know what I mean? All the kind of European safety standards and global safety standards and standards for this, that and the other. Oh, that's a really cool old house too, and barn, very nice. Have made it so that these bikes are all really good at, you know, the basics, like reliability, all that stuff, and you know, your general safety. They're really good at that. So where does that then leave you? It leaves you at a point that, you know, your topics on your bikes are like, okay, well, you know, this bike is slightly faster, this bike handles slightly better. And the trouble with that is it's really like, it's a lot of it is now kind of the design intent of the bike is what separates them. So, you know, if someone wants to make an adventure bike, they're going to make it torquier, they're going to make that engine profile slightly different. And, you know, other than brand snobbery, which some people do still have for some reason, I don't know why, it's a really nice bike, I see him here all the time. I don't get the whole brand snobbery thing anymore. It doesn't make any sense to me, because now there's no real need for it, you know what I mean? Back in the day, it might have made some sense that certain manufacturers were less reliable and didn't have warranties, and you know, you could buy an absolute turd and throw away your money on it. And I can understand how that would breed a distrust and you know, a dislike for certain brands. You don't really have that issue anymore, you know what I mean? So yeah, certain brands can still be less reliable than others. Long story short is, all manufacturers now are so good, you know, even at doing the basics right. It just makes it so difficult to point out anything bad, and in a very long-winded way. That's what I'm getting at with those reviews. I do try to find the negatives, you know, like, is this bike very tall? If you were a bit shorter or a bit lighter of a person, would it be harder to manage? You know, stuff that I feel is important for people. That's why I kind of target that. That's why I try to pick on that, because it's all well and good for me to go out and say this bike is perfect, and then for someone to go and write it and say, oh well, you missed this and this. So I do try, in the limited time I have with all of these bikes on first rides, I try to see, you know, the important bits, the daily comfort, stuff like that, and that's why I do that. Anyway, where does this go in relation to the golden era of bikes? Bikes now are amazing. Pretty much all new bikes, you know what I mean? Like, you got your cheaper ones from Royal Enfield and stuff like that, all the way up to your super expensive I was gonna say expensive, but apparently I need to accent that. The likes of your Ducatis, and you know, even BMW in recent times have just been producing some absolutely amazing bikes. Not that they didn't always produce amazing bikes, but in recent times I personally have been blown away with their Yes, but with BMW in recent times, I have been blown away with their offerings. You know, from the latest S1000 RRs, the S1000 XR, the 1250 GS is a mighty machine as well. The 850 GS, you know, the R9Ts are class. The R1250 RSs, they're all such nice bikes, and they're cool bikes. Personally, obviously views are subjective, but I think that's another thing, you know, with modern bikes, it's not like modern cars. You know, modern cars are built to a large degree, they're built in a wind tunnel pretty much, or you know, a synthetic wind tunnel on software, in order to get the best aerodynamics for, you know, economy and emissions and shit. And to a large degree, bikes, while I'm sure they are influenced by emission stuff as well, you still get that, you know, they still make bikes to look beautiful, like your Aprilias, like your Ducatis, BMWs, some Hondas, Yamahas. Like and again, I know it's all a taste thing, but I think modern Yamahas, like the dark side stuff, the MT-09, the MT-10, MT-07, they're stunning. The new R1, the next year's anniversary model, oh my god, I would give my left leg for that anniversary model. It's just, that R1 is freaking stunning. You know, all Moto Guzzi's ever. But the fact you can walk into a showroom and buy the likes of a V85 TT so easily from Moto Guzzi, they're absolutely beautiful bikes. And I can go on, but I won't, because you get my point. A lot of modern bikes are beautiful, and it's not just, I'm not talking like brand new, I'm not talking 2020, 21, I'm talking like the last 20 years even, stuff that are still kind of in cycle, stuff that are, you know, that you can easily go out and buy off the market, that are readily available. We'll put it like that, we'll phrase it like that. Oh, I didn't rev bomb. I thought about it, but I didn't. I'm sorry. Anyway, what's my point here is, you know, a lot of the time you have, and I'm one of them, is I look back very fondly on older bikes, because it was a time when, you know, there was no emissions, so you could just be stupid, like the Honda CBX. You know, that 6-cylinder screaming engine, which is absolutely magnificent, and I want one day. You know, the old Honda Magnas, which I still own one because I love them. And that list also goes on. You know, you could talk about cool old bikes until you're blue in the face, but the thing is, even with all the emissions restrictions, and I'm going to stop talking till we get past this tractor, because that will make it boring stuff. But yeah, basically my point is, at the moment you can go out to buy a used bike or a new bike, and you know, the fact, you know, with older models, the beauty of the internet as well, and this will feed into it, I'll get to this, right? The beauty of it is you can buy a bike, and even if it's not 100% reliable, you can generally make them 100% reliable because of the internet. We'll talk about that in a second. But like the support, the parts, you know, before you might have had to wait so long to get X part from Japan or whatever. Now I can just go on to the likes of CMSNL and buy whatever I want for my Magna, which is, you know, 5 years older than me, which is crazy. You know what I mean? It was made before I was born, and I can still buy parts for it. I can still buy service items for it. I can still buy spare parts for wear items. You know, you can buy heads for them. You can buy pistons for them. It is crazy, and it is a beautiful thing. Also, you know, like modern bikes, and this is more the last 10 years, say, modern bikes now have so much control systems on them, which again is, I agree, it is a point to argue. Some people don't like it. Personally, I'm not hugely fond of all of the electronics. I like a bike with less controls, but that's not the point. The fact is, so much more power is so much more attainable for people, you know what I mean? For instance, you know, the KTM 1290 Super Adventure, apparently that's pretty much unrideable without the electronic assistance stuff. But with the electronic assistance stuff, that bike becomes an absolute titan on the road. That thing is amazing, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? You have these options. You have the fact that manufacturers are still pushing to get like this crazy power, crazy torque out of bikes when legally we're not allowed to use them on the road. They're still doing it, which is magnificent, because I see it in 20 years time where that won't be allowed anymore because of the way governments are going and laws are going. They're going to have every single person on the planet wrapped up in cotton wool, and you won't be allowed a super fast bike anymore, which sucks, by the way. I am not a supporter of that at all these electronics and stuff, whatever about the possibility of Big Brother coming down the line, they're making these bikes more attainable to people. You know, they're still pushing out these crazy powers, like the new Hayabusa. Yes, I know people get upset that it doesn't have a higher peak horsepower and torque number than the last generation, but it is still a crazy fast bike. Kawasaki went and built the H2. They built the H2SX. They built a sports touring version of a supercharged teleportation device. You know what I mean? That is cool. Anyway, my point is, right, that whatever you think, whatever you dream, there's probably a bike out there for it. You know what I mean? You have off-the-shelf bikes that you can take to the track and have a blast on. You've off-the-shelf bikes that you can take up the side of a mountain. You've off-the-shelf bikes that you can take around the world, right through the desert. You know, the Yamaha T7. I absolutely love the Tenere 700, by the way. I would also like to own one of them one day. There are so many options now. It is crazy. You know, all of these kind of separate genres of bikes. You have your sports bike, your sports tours, your adventure bikes, your tours, your cruisers, you know, your dual sports, your off-road, your MX. There's just so many options for every class these days, and I think it's unreal. It's awesome. It is. I love it. Is my point. And the other reason I do honestly believe it's kind of a golden era of bikes is, for instance, this bike. You can walk out with some money and you can go to buy a bike, and you can buy any bike really, and that's made in the last 15 years, say. Well, we'll just say 15, not even 20, but 15 years. And if that bike isn't bulletproof, like this one pretty much is, the fact that the internet is around, you can find out any minor issue that might occur and how to fix it. All the common problems and how to avoid them with preventative maintenance, or how to fix them if they do occur. You know what I mean? Or you can just go out and research online and buy something that's bulletproof for the job you want to do. Is it a good commuter? Is it a good tour? The options that are there for people are phenomenal, because before, you know, people would have had to, you know, rely on word of mouth, publications, and you know, their local dealers who might not have always been the most honest. But like everything, and I mean everything, service items, you know, how often you should actually do things, what parts should you change in advance, it's all there online, and it's all there for every bike that has existed in the last even 40-50 years. Anything that people own a few of, anything that's relatively common, there's a forum for, and anything that's kind of more niche, that's a bit of a rarer bike, there's generally also a forum for, because people love their stuff. People want to connect with other people who have the same things as them, who have the same issues as them, and as one big kind of like motorbike hive mind, they solve these problems. It's so hard to say anything negative about modern or brand new bikes because they're so good. You have a situation where you can go out and buy pretty much whatever your heart desires. There's customization options there. You know, the likes of Harley. I love the fact that Harley now have the competition coming from Indian, which I do honestly believe has pushed them to make the likes of the Pan America and all that stuff, because they know they need to diversify. They know they need to push on, grab more customers, you know, while they can, because Indian are a competitor. Indian make great bikes. Or, you know, if you're going to be one of those people who are like, it's not Indian, it's Polaris. Polaris are making great bikes. You know, they made great bikes previously in the moniker of Victory. They are fantastic bikes, and I love seeing that. I love seeing, you know, not a new name per se, but another name on the scene making all these great models, you know, like the FTR. Again, the FTR is still one of my dream bikes. I think it's absolutely beautiful, one-handed through the corners. And yeah, I just think that basically right now, with, you know, the models we have, the what you call it, the diversity, there you go, the diversity we have in the bike market with all the different models, all the power, the reliability, the looks, we're just very lucky. And the fact that that's breeding competition between all these manufacturers, we're very, very lucky. And long may it last, because I love seeing all these models come out. And I am genuinely worried that in 20 years time, when I get to the point I can actually afford like a new bike, I hope. There's no guarantees. Oh, this is a lovely corner. I do love that corner. Yeah, there's no guarantees I'll be able to afford them, but I do hope in 20 years time that maybe I would. There's no guarantees that the cool, really fast bikes will be there anymore. They might all be gone, and that would make me very sad. But it is what it is. Not much I can do about it, other than try to start up my own bike company and make cool, you know, limited run customs that don't have to comply with all these emissions regulations and stuff. But that is not the point. I'm rambling again. The only thing I will say that could be seen as a negative from all these modern bike stuff is the cost of modern bikes are, like I just mentioned for myself for instance, they are prohibitively expensive. But unfortunately, there's a lot of reasonably wealthy people out there. There's a lot of people who can afford these things on finance. I am not one of those people at the moment. I hope one day I'll be able to afford them. Not on finance, just afford them. But the fact of the matter is, you know, sometimes you have to step back and appreciate the ingenuity, the design that's going into these, without being upset that they're not aimed at you. They're not aimed at your earning potential. They're not aimed at your, you know, wealth bracket, say. And that is something that I personally have struggled with sometimes. You know, I've ridden a bike and I've been like, oh my god, I want it so much. And then you take a step back and realize I can't afford that anytime soon at all. Which does sometimes make me sad, but then you remember these bikes aren't really going anywhere for a long time. They're going to be around as used models. And that's something to be happy about. You know, we will be able to buy them. Us people who can't currently afford them, we'll be able to buy them in 10 years as used models. And if they stay as good as they currently are, if they wear as well as these type of bikes are currently, we're in for a treat. We're going to have an absolutely massive selection. It'll be like one of those gelato shops in Italy you go into and they just have every flavour of ice cream ever. I do think the only big negative for modern bikes in this what I honestly do believe is a golden era. I'm not saying it's the golden era of bikes. We may or may not have other ones. Anyone who knows me will know when I thought the other one was. I've spoken about it before. I hope that answers the questions about, you know, the reviews. I hope it gets other people thinking. If, you know, if this gets you thinking, if you're like, oh hey, I get what you mean and I actually have some opinions about that, let me know down in the comments. Because it is something that goes around my mind all the time. It's like, oh my god, I love all these new bikes, but I can't afford any of them. But then you take a step back and just appreciate that that's all for the bike industry. That is all showing the health of the bike industry, and where a lot of news is often doom and gloom. You know, there's never been less riders, there's never been less young people interested in bikes, whatever. Yeah, okay, fair, point taken. There doesn't seem to be a lot of young people interested. That could change in 5-6 years. Maybe they'll realize their lives are miserable and they need two wheels, and at that point maybe I'll sell this to them. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know, do you think we are in a golden era of bikes? Let me know what you think the golden era of bikes was, if you don't agree with me, or do you think that we're never going to do better than right now, which is a distinct possibility. We might never do better than right now in terms of having all those classic used bikes available to buy, which might one day be illegal, and and all these new unbelievably cool bikes also available to buy, which might one day also be illegal or just gone. Who knows? Oh, sculpture. Cool. And that is all I'm going to say. So if you have watched, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. I hope it made you think a little bit, because this is kind of just what goes through my head all the time. I just like to think about these things. And until next time, as always, a very special thank you to all of my patrons. You're all legends, and I do appreciate you all to pieces. Not like literally pieces, because then you'd be in pieces, which would be bad, and you might be dead. But yes, I appreciate you all a lot. And yeah, until next time, thank you again for watching. Adios. So that's Kells Priory over there. I come home this road all the time because I get to ride past one of, in my opinion, the coolest things in existence, which is Kells Priory. And I've never actually stopped here, so let's... St. Mary's Church, Kells, service times. Oh, it's an actual active church. And it's not that interesting looking. Sorry, St. Mary's. But there is a thing about bees. Why do we need bees? Bees are important. We should all look after bees. Anyway, bye.